The woods of Appalachia were silent, save for the rhythmic thud of a hammer. Sarah Matthews stood in a clearing overgrown with weeds, her breath fogging in the cold air, one hand resting on her swollen belly, the other gripping the worn wooden handle of that hammer like a lifeline. 6 months pregnant, $47 to her name, no roof, no power, no one left to call family. The land beneath her boots, 5 forgotten acres inherited from her grandmother, was all that tethered her to the world. Around her lay piles of discarded metal, broken windows, rotted lumber, the detritus of other people's lives. But to Sarah they were salvation. Where others saw waste, she saw the bones of a home. Her story hadn't started here, though. It had begun in a cramped apartment 3 months earlier, with 2 pink lines on a test strip and a man named Jack, who had promised the world and disappeared the same night. When she told him she was pregnant, Jack's eyes didn't widen with joy, but with calculation. He'd said he wasn't ready, that the band finally had a shot on the West Coast. That night, Sarah watched him pack his guitars and leave, his key left cold on the counter. 2 weeks later, the eviction notice came. Her job at the diner vanished soon after, her manager claiming customers didn't want reminders of real life with their coffee. Sitting on the bare floor of that apartment, Sarah opened a box of old family papers and found a yellow deed, land in the Appalachian Mountains. Too remote, her mother had called it. But for Sarah, remote meant safe. It meant hers. She bought a bus ticket to a town called Pinerest. As the city lights faded behind her, she pressed her hand to her belly and whispered, "It's just us now, but we've got land." When she stepped off that bus into Pinerest silence, the air felt different, older, heavier, honest. The 4-mile walk north to her property nearly broke her. By the time she reached the rusted mailbox reading Matthews, her feet were raw, her shoulders trembling beneath the weight of her bag. The clearing had long since been reclaimed by nature, but beneath the vines she found the faint outline of her grandmother's foundation, stone still standing where memory had not. That night, in a cheap tent pitched over those ruins, Sarah whispered into the dark, "We're home." In the days that followed, she learned the rhythm of the forest, the creek whispering through rocks, the way light shifted through branches, the sound of her own resolve hardening. When an old man named Elijah Tanner appeared at the tree, weathered and wordless, she straightened her back and introduced herself as Eleanor's granddaughter. He nodded once. "Winter comes hard here," he warned. Sarah met his gaze. "I'll be ready." Readiness began in the town library. While others sought warmth or gossip, Sarah hunted knowledge, stacks of books on carpentry, off-grid living, childbirth, and Appalachian survival. The librarian, Marge Donovan, recognized her grandmother's name and issued her a card without question. That card became her passport to reinvention. Soon, she scavenged pallets behind grocery stores, cracked windows from renovation dumpsters, and scrap wood left by construction crews. She bought a red child's wagon for $10 and hauled her finds 4 miles uphill each day. Townspeople stared. Some pitied, some whispered, but others, like Miguel from the construction site, left accidental piles of usable lumber by the road. At night, Sarah sorted every board by size, every screw by type. Her body ached, her hands blistered, but each salvaged nail hammered a rhythm into her new life. Survive, build, endure. The wagon creaked through gravel and mud like an anthem of defiance. The foundation came first, 24 concrete blocks hauled one by one from town. Elijah, skeptical yet silently invested, began leaving tools at the edge of her property, a post-hole digger one morning, a tarp before a rainstorm. Piece by piece, the cabin rose, a 12 by 16-foot fortress of willpower. Her growing belly forced her to work slower but never to stop. When the deputy arrived on a welfare check, she showed him the rainwater system she'd built, the solar lamp that glowed through the night. He left, shaking his head, saying, "You're resourceful, Miss Matthews." Word spread. People began helping in ways that didn't threaten her pride. A bag of nails, left anonymously, jars of preserves by the gate. The first time her baby kicked, Sarah was hammering the last wallboard in place. She pressed her palm to her belly and whispered, "You approve?" The answer came as another kick. In that moment, her half-built cabin felt alive. Winter's edge sharpened. The roof was a puzzle of mismatched metal sheets secured under Elijah's gruff supervision. Inside, the wood stove burned with salvaged bricks beneath it, the air filled with the tang of pine smoke and possibility. Rita, a nurse from the clinic, began visiting, first with vitamins, then with help installing the stove. "This isn't charity," she told Sarah. "It's safety." The truth stung, but stuck. By December, the cabin stood warm against the cold, the walls patched with foam, cardboard, and newspaper. Sarah's belly had dropped low. The baby, her daughter, was due any day. When the blizzard came, it came hard. Snow howled against the roof. Power lines fell, and the roads disappeared beneath white. As contractions began, Sarah reached for the CB radio Elijah had taught her to use. "This is Sarah Matthews," she said steadily, "in early labor, requesting assistance." The static crackled back. "Hold tight, help's on the way." Hours later, headlights cut through the storm. Elijah emerged first, frost clinging. To his beard, followed by Nancy Wilcox, a retired midwife summoned by radio. The labor stretched through the night, the cabin trembling under wind and pain alike. But when dawn broke and the storm's rage faded to silence, a single cry filled the room. Sarah wept as Nancy placed the newborn on her chest. "Hello," she whispered, voice breaking. "I'm your mom. We did it." When the snowplows finally arrived, the town found her safe, exhausted and radiant. She named the baby Hope. The story spread through Pinerest like wildfire, the woman who built her own home and gave birth in a blizzard. The townspeople who once doubted her now called her the strongest soul they'd ever met, and for the first time in months, Sarah didn't feel alone. She felt anchored to her child, her home, and the mountain that had tested her. 1 year later, the cabin no longer looked like survival. It looked like legacy. Hope toddled in the garden outside, while Sarah taught weekend workshops on sustainable building. The community that once watched her from afar now gathered on her porch, learning from her blueprints drawn by hand. The local paper called her project Matthews Woods, a model for resilience and reclamation. When a young pregnant woman arrived one evening, clutching a faded newspaper clipping and asking, "Can you show me where to start?" Sarah smiled. The same smile her grandmother must have worn decades ago, and opened the door wide. Inside, the walls glowed with firelight and laughter. "We've got plenty to share," she said, because what Sarah built wasn't just a cabin, it was proof that what the world discards can still shelter miracles. And if you felt something in Sarah's story, if you believe strength can rise from ruin, don't forget to share it, to like, to subscribe. Because stories like this deserve to be built one listener at a time.